Hey everybody, Kim Silvio, how you going? Man, I'm so excited. Just before I get going, can everybody hear me? Can everybody see me? And please don't leave rude comments in the chat. Anyone? Anyone? Hello. Oh, thank you, Mark and Cora. Much obliged. So, hi everybody. I have hopefully managed to get this right. I'm very excited. I've made something special for today. I've been planning it and plotting it for a few weeks now. I am super excited. For all of you who don't know, today I'm chatting with the Fateful Slave, who some of you know as Parker. He's one of the VAA boys, one of the kind ones. Just saying, Joel. No, I'm joking. So yeah, I've got some walk down memory lane for Parker. I've got some questions for him. We're going to chat. And if you've got questions that you want to ask him, then by all means, jump them into the queue at the end. And if he has time, he'll answer them or he'll tell you to get stuff. So welcome, Parker.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
Everyone's going great. I'm so excited to have you on. Thank you so much for joining me. I've watched some of your videos like I have with all of the OGs, as I call them, from the VAA and others. You've been around for a while, and I thought the best thing that I could do, and I'm going to try and do it, I hope like hell it works. I've made you a little presentation, so I'm hoping that we can get a live reaction from you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, before
you
get into that, I just have to go back to what you said in your intro, and I'm offended already. I'm already offended.
God.
You said I was one of the kind ones. You know how hard I tried to keep up with Joel and Tony and JW Fairy Tale and be one of the rowdy ones. I've tried very hard to maintain that image, and now I find out that I'm one of the kind ones. Ugh.
Yeah, well, Fairy Tale's kind. Tony's kind. Son of Thunder's kind.
Yeah,
I was
I'm
really
just playing.
referring to Joel not being kind. If there's a live stream and I'm not shitting on Joel, there's a problem. So let's be honest.
Yeah,
all right, so I'm going to try my technology skills. And let's see. Nope, that's not going to work. We'll do it a different way. We'll do a share screen. Nope, that one.
While you're doing that, I'm going to harass your live chat.
Yeah, go for it. So, who are you live chatting? Hello.
You've got
do you want to give us a rundown while I'm getting this sorted of who is the Fateful Slave?
Who is the Fateful and Discreet Slave? So yeah, I chose the name Fateful Slave, obviously the play on the Faith, Faithful Slave. I'm just a dude from Florida. I spent quite a few years in upstate New York as well. I didn't have a good time in the Jehovah's Witness organization. Decided that I didn't like the accommodations.
Hello there, YouTubers.
Oh no!
Whoopsies.
That is a very old video. Oh my god! What are you about to spring on me?
I stuffed it. I'm so upset. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's always nice to be sneak attacked with a very old image of my face.
I was like, damn this thing. I thought I had it down. And then I'm like, oh, it worked. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I don't know what else to say about me anyway. I left the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was baptized. I was a ministerial servant for exactly 1 week, but that's a whole nother story. Yeah. I just didn't, the whole thing didn't jive with me. I had a lot of questions that they couldn't answer or wouldn't. And a lot of questions that I couldn't even ask, honestly, because there's some questions that if you even ask, you know you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I had some pretty rough first relationships within the JW organization.
Mm.
I was like engaged to be married to like my first real girlfriend, and because that's what you do, right? You have to be looking for marriage to even date, right? And that went south on me. She kind of just changed her mind, and that was probably one of the nails in the coffin for me with the organization, because that one really threw me for a loop, man. I was pretty head over heels and just crushed. And then I had these nagging questions that just got louder and louder, and I started doing research into the whole thing, and it was over, basically.
And how old were you then? What age?
It's like 21 when I started to really go down the rabbit hole, reading about, Russell and Rutherford. And actually, it goes so far back that when I first read about Charles Taze Russell, I wrote a little blog about him, not on MySpace, but on like a forum before MySpace. So I'm showing my age now, but
no, you're not, because I think we're a similar age based on your experience. So I think we're pretty similar in age.
probably.
Yeah. So tell me, I'm dying to know. I can't move on until I hear the ministerial servant for a week story.
I'll just make it quick. So I was a virgin until the day I got married, but prior to that, with some of my relationships in the organization, I did go a little bit further than you're supposed to go as a witness with these relationships.
Really? A
And
young man going too far?
I guess so.
It's the
Guilty.
first I've heard of it. It's such a foreign thought to me. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, well,
never
we should
heard of
have had a better chaperone. It's really not my fault.
I agree, actually. That's a fair point. What was
Yeah.
your chaperone doing at the time?
I don't know. Hold on, let me get the phone number. We'll call them. No, I'm kidding. But
Invite them on.
you just made out and got a little escalated, not a big deal. And I always had like a code where I kind of didn't sweat some of the rules like most Jehovah's Witnesses did. Obviously, like actual sex, I would have felt really guilty, and like that would have been like too much for me. But I kind of like felt that the other stuff was kind of petty and not that big of a deal. So I was a little bit of a rebel in that way. But I guess my girlfriend at the time, she felt weird about it later and confessed. And
was that after you'd married somebody else?
Oh, no. I was still a teenager when this happened. We had like broken up, and then she told the elders that we had made out, and it got a little out of hand, and I had just become a ministerial servant. And and so that was the end of that. Yeah.
Never to be trusted with the microphones ever again.
Yeah, I was what is it, privately reproved?
Mm.
Guess not enough people knew to warrant making me a public mockery. So
Yeah, but you got stood down as an MS. Everyone knows what's going on.
yeah, it was extremely awkward. One week they announced I was a ministerial servant, everyone, and then the very next week he's not a ministerial servant.
Brother Fateful Slave is no longer a ministerial servant.
Yeah. Bummer.
All right. Well, let's do this. What do you reckon? You ready for the reaction video?
I'm ready. I'm ready
going to
as
step
I could
myself
be.
out so you can watch it in peace and privacy.
Okay.
Okay.
The Fateful
Damn it. Hang on.
I think it'll pop up if we are not expecting it to.
This video is just going to be talking about my personal top 5 cringeworthy moments.
This is a cringeworthy moment.
Top 5 cringeworthy progressive moments of the organization.
What a baby.
Smells like desperation.
Wheeling, I'm so glad to be a public witness card.
Talk about a unique perspective.
Oh my God, Kim.
What?
Now, in my last video, I did a top 5 cringeworthy progressive moments of the Jehovah's Witnesses. This one beats all 5 of them, hands down. This is the most embarrassing wannabe Disney show tunes crap I have ever seen. Oh my God, it's awful. Oh man.
Evie Brooklyn is also amazing.
Oh no.
She's such a sweetheart, and I don't know. I want to say thank you to her as well.
Oh, it hurt.
So yeah, that was me slipping on some ice, throwing my phone, and almost busting my ass.
John Cedars wants to give a voice to the silent majority. But does his opinions really reflect the people? XJWs around the world have spoken. They agree with the Russian ban on Jehovah's Witnesses. But when given national attention in a BBC interview, what does John Cedars have to say about it?
With the idea of banning the group in Russia, as the Russian government wants to do, what's your thoughts on it?
Hello, Nuala. I think it's a terrible idea.
John Cedars doesn't represent you. Don't give him any more power than he already has. John Cedars, if you're really going to elect yourself as the voice of the silent majority, then maybe you should be more careful with what you say, especially with an international interview like the one you just did for the BBC. As my good buddy Eric the Son of Thunder said recently on the Vast Apostate Hour, you missed a golden opportunity to voice a list of grievances that you have with the Jehovah's Witnesses. And yeah, you kind of said some of the negative things about it, but in the same breath, you said that you were against the ban in Russia? Oh yeah, human rights and all that, yeah, we get it. Everyone should be able to practice whatever religion they want, right? Freedom of religion. It's a very important thing. Except the Jehovah's Witnesses are not a religion, they're a cult.
That's convenient, right? JW Fairy
And
Tale.
what else? Watchtower Kingdom.
Don't ask us twice, we've killed 4 We will con the unwashed masses, dash their dreams with hopelessness.
What will you bring, Watchtower Kingdom?
Sisters and kids to be molested.
And bring what else, Watchtower Kingdom?
Get back to work or you'll regret. We will con the unwashed masses, dash their dreams with hopelessness.
I feel so spiritual now.
How long is this, Kim?
Well, hello there. Welcome to the very first Apostate University. I am your professor, Fateful Slave. These people might no longer be in Jehovah's memory. They'll always be in mine.
That was so sweet. Got me a little bit emotional here with that last bit.
Why is that making you emotional?
Oh, Warwick was such a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of great people, a lot of wonderful memories. I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay. You don't need to apologize. It seemed like a really positive thing that you guys did. Anybody that hasn't seen that last video, it's a documentary, in fact. I can only encourage you to go and watch it. I could have put the whole damn video in there. It is so encouraging. Yeah.
Yeah. Warwick was probably one of the most proud moments of my life, apart from, you know, the birth of my kids. Me and Joel, you know, had no idea what to expect. And Trisha Frangia as well. She was massively instrumental to that whole thing. But it just blew me away. I wasn't ready for how a lot of people said it wasn't a big deal, but it really felt like it at the time, I guess.
Yeah. I think it was a big deal. So there's lots of people, me included, until maybe a year ago, maybe even less than a year ago, I didn't know about Warwick. What was Warwick? Tell me about it.
Okay, well, Warwick. So Joel and a lot of the OGs, even before I came onto the scene, they had like this prophecy that November 5th, 2017 would be the day Watchtower died. It was really cryptic. And, you know, the vast apostate army was sort of a moniker that the OG YouTubers, apostates, used. And they would oftentimes put the moniker on their videos, and they would reference this date, November 5th. And it was part of the remember the 5th of November, you know, whole thing. And yeah, so I came around and we started making videos together, and I got to know some of these OGs. And Joel was doing the Vast Apostate Hour, which was a podcast. And man, what a ride that was. That was an amazing time to be alive. We would have, God, sometimes him or Eric, when he hosted, they'd have like 10 people on the live stream at one time. And it was nonsense. Everybody's trying to talk at once, but it was so beautiful too, you know. And Joel was really adamant about giving everyone a chance to speak, you know, a contrast to someone like Lloyd, who tried to make it all about him and sort of monopolize the conversation. He was like, well, let's be the opposite of that. Let's try and like, oh, there's a new YouTuber talking about, you know, their experience with the Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's get them on the Vast Apostate Hour and interview them. And so we were doing all this stuff, and I was talking to Joel. I was like, hey man, November 5th is coming up. We we talked a lot of shit over the years about it. We're gonna do it, right? Let's just do it. And he's like, yeah, we pretty much have to. And so that's what we did. We gathered as many people as we could to their new shiny headquarters in Warwick, New York, and we did a protest. And we had people from all over the world somehow. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I noticed the Great Apostate was in there.
Great Apostate, yeah.
Yeah. I
Neil
think
is
Rick Ferrin.
still one of my best friends.
I've met the Great Apostate.
I know you
spent the day with him and his wife and their 2 beautiful kids.
They're amazing. His whole
Fabulous.
family is just
one of
like,
the best days.
oh, they're wonderful.
Yeah. And I saw Rick Ferrin in there. Evie's in there.
I don't think Evie made it.
No. Who was the other girl?
There was Trisha.
That's what I was trying to think of.
Stacey Galvan, or Stacey Lopez. You had Rebecca from Spoonfed No More.
Oh yeah, it's not in your video, but there was a video of you spoon feeding her, and she was very unhappy about it.
She's dramatic.
Yeah. Well, she is no more spoon fed, and you were trying to spoon feed her. I understand that. I'll stand with the women on that one.
Oh, and how could I forget? Maggie was there.
Yes.
There was like Lori. I mean, there was a ton. There was actually a ton of exjw women there.
There were, and I know in that video, the children that the Forgotten Children of Jehovah. I can't encourage. Go watch it. It's the best documentary. It's the most amazing thing. There's just so many different aspects covered. You did a Kingdom Hall crash, which I thought was absolutely respectful and amazing.
I think that was all Joel. Because I don't even think it was scripted. I think the night before we were celebrating and stuff, and somebody pitched the idea, tomorrow morning, it's Sunday, let's go crash a hall. And I was like, you guys are crazy. And then the morning came and they're like, all right, you getting ready for the meeting? I'm like, what are you talking about? Are we doing this? But yeah, we went in.
It was so good.
Oh, Zeb, yeah. Zeb might have, honestly, Zeb was probably instrumental in making that happen, because Zeb was the Kingdom Hall crash master. Him and Derek O'Hare. But Zeb really wanted to go, and Joel was probably like, man, it would be great if we could get 10 or 11 people in there and back Zeb up for a epic Kingdom Hall crash.
I know in the video, in the documentary, someone's talking and someone's saying, oh, who are you on the phone to? Oh, Zeb's running late. Just the honesty and the rawness and it clearly is coming from the heart, and everything's sort of like off the cuff. What are we doing now? Okay, what are we doing now? You've got plans, but then everything else is just like,
it was all by the seat of our pants. There was no planning whatsoever. Sometimes that was like beautiful, and other times it was kind of hectic and nerve-wracking. We're like, well, what's the next step? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was fun. It's fun, and I just love that you sort of, I mean, I've seen other things that you did, which again, I could have made a video for an hour minimum of all the things that I've seen you do. You've gone to Kingdom Halls and tried to answer, and you're sitting there putting your hand up like 9-10 times, and then eventually still don't get picked, and you walk out, and then you get told you didn't get picked because you had a bad attitude. And I'm like, it's hilarious. And there's other things where you walked up and had conversations with JWs in the park, at stands and stuff. And the way you do it is so respectful and so useful. And anybody that's interested in doing that kind of public unwitnessing, I could only encourage you to go check out Piper's channel and have a look at it, because there are absolutely I don't have the skills to do it, But I
Oh,
think what
come
you've done,
on.
no, I could not do that. I'm very, like, I'll be honest, I have limitations, technical limitations, but I also have social limitations. I could not do what you do, but hats off to you, because I think it's extremely effective. I
You
really,
know,
really
I
do.
don't know if I can do it anymore either. I've spent a lot of time away from all this, and I don't think my nerves are up for it anymore either. I think at the time I still had a lot of like, maybe, I guess it's anger. I don't know. I had like a righteous fury, you know. It's like, oh, this must be said.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, this is all too much. I can't do stuff like that anymore.
So where are you at now? What's the Fateful Slave look like these days? I heard a story that you're engaged to be married.
I am engaged to a fantastic woman. She's far more impressive than me, actually. She teaches cosmetology, you know, hair cutting and dyeing hair and all that for an institute locally here in Tallahassee. She's really good at it. She's awesome. Yeah, we don't have a date set yet or anything, but probably next year realistically. But
that's exciting. She's
yeah.
not an XJW?
No.
Does she give two shits about it?
Well, she was raised in sort of the Catholic version of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like she was raised Catholic and pretty strictly. You know, sometimes Catholics are pretty blasé, but her parents, at least in the beginning when she was young, were pretty strict. So she can relate to a lot of you know, my background.
Yeah.
And other than that, it's interesting, Kim. I'm glad you brought that up, because we really don't talk about it that much. I mean, she knows like the basics, but I met her and started dating her at a point where I just didn't give the organization much thought anymore. And so it wasn't that big of a deal. And to this day, like, I don't even know if she's watched any of my videos, maybe one or whatever, to kind of like see what they were about. But for a long time, she didn't even know that I had like my channel or anything.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
But that's a good thing. Like, you don't have to introduce it straight away. This is a subject that I've only was discussing with one of my girlfriends yesterday. You don't have to like disclose anything or everything the first date or whatever, even the 10th date or the 20th date. It's in your own time. It's not, it becomes a point where it doesn't define who you are. It's your past and your history.
Yeah, that's where I've been trying to get to, you know. People who look at my channel will notice that I really don't upload very much, and I rarely do the JW thing anymore.
Yeah, you've gone on and done some other bits and pieces, but they're not extra. They're sort of like the Great Apostate has sort of started to do some other things as well, which I find really interesting. Just, you know, more on social issues, political issues, that kind of thing, which I don't understand American politics at all. So I vote for whatever you vote for, and
I don't vote anymore.
I vote red, I vote blue. I have no idea about it. So.
Yeah, I honestly, at this point, both sides are a shit show, and they let their voters down every chance they get. So I'm just done with, you know, like, I'm not going to participate anymore. Like, I got involved for a while, but it's like, man.
Yeah, I don't understand. People say, you know, and here's my political opinion about America. Ready? I hate Donald Trump for the fact that when I used to turn my telly on to watch the news, which I now no longer watch because I realize how bullshit it is, Donald Trump would be on my TV and he'd be saying something, and the context of it has zero to me. I don't understand what he's saying. What he's talking about is the way he said it. There is no academic thought whatsoever to my Trump assessment. It is purely just the way he speaks. And I'm like, you need to stop talking, and tell you off. And there is my political analysis for the rest of the year.
I don't care to combat that because that's a perfectly reasonable take. The man, he can be abrasive. I think that he got elected because he came off as more of like the everyday Joe. But with that comes, you know, he's not really an eloquent speaker, or I mean, maybe better than the current guy, but
also facts in evidence. Like it's really I don't know. I sort of am like, America, what are you doing? You're meant to be the free country of the universe, and you know what's the saying? If America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. I really hope our politicians don't turn out that embarrassing, because it's pretty cringe.
Yeah.
Anyway, so tell me, looking back on your time since you left the organization up until when you sort of started to transition to become an exjw, looking back at that time, the VAA days and all of the stupid shit you guys used to do. Let's talk real here for a minute. What's your favorite memory? Tell me a story.
My favorite memory from which time period now?
From like the VA, we'll call it the VAA days, like from your beginning of your YouTube until sort of like when you guys all moved on.
That's kind of tough, but it would probably have to be Warwick. Probably, I don't know. That's a really tough one, but the day of the protest, probably, because that just felt like we were doing something groundbreaking, and man. So when I said that we had people from all over the world, there was another guy there, and I want to say his name was, it was something I couldn't pronounce. I couldn't pronounce it now, even if I tried, I don't think, even if I remembered it. But he translated XJW YouTube videos into his language. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I just can't think of his name. The Lebanese guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he came from Italy or something. I don't remember. And that was really, really cool. Oh, yeah. Joel just reminded me that, the W5, the W5 documentary, is it CTV? The Canadian World News. We had Avery Haynes come out, and she did a documentary and included our whole protest in that, and that aired on primetime television in Canada, and it had millions of views. You know, she let us know after it aired that was some of the best ratings that the channel had.
Yeah.
And that was, man, that was kind of mind-blowing for me as well. Yeah,
I remember watching a video that you did. I don't know if it was just before or just after, but I said that a mainstream network had picked up and was going to do a documentary about, or a piece about, the protest. And the way you were speaking was you were like so pumped for it, like you were so ready, and I was like, this is great. Like that's great exposure for the you know, the message that everyone's trying to get out, that this is not just a religion, it's a cult, and it's dangerous, and it's got policies that hurt people for X, Y, and Z reason. So I can remember watching that thinking, oh, he was like so excited. And obviously I knew that by then, I knew that it had happened and the W5 documentary had gone out, and I was like, that's the best. Like, I love that. It was a great documentary.
It really is. I didn't realize how expansive that was going to be at the time. I mean, she had so many people on there. She had Trisha, she interviewed on there. She had Christian and Katya on there. It went all over the place and really in depth too. I was really proud of the job that she did. Avery Haynes was a wonderful journalist.
And the reason that I included the silly singing clip in your montage that I made for you is it's the silly and the serious, and the fun and the serious. And there are so many things that I've watched, not just on your channel, but on your channel, on the Vast Apostate Hour, which you're on, and Fairy Tale, and Tony Prime, and Joel, and et cetera, and many other visitors, guests, and whatever, and other people's channels as well. There's always a serious side of it, and there's always an element of seriousness, and there's always an element of, we want this out there, we want this said, we want people to know, but God damn it, we're going to have a good time in the meanwhile. And seriously, I'm jealous. I've begged Joel 15,000 times to be a VA member, and he has said no. Do you have any overriding capabilities?
I think I have a stamp here. Yeah, here it is. So put your forehead out, and there you go. You're now an official member of the Vast Apostate Army. Congratulations. Sorry, Joel. She bit my wrist. I couldn't help it. Yeah, he's just teasing you.
Fuck Joel. I'm VA. We do about it. I'll be calling a meeting and having you kicked out.
Yeah, the VAA was always like a grassroots thing, and anybody who wanted to, identify as part of our, militant group of regressive apostates, they could, and it was interesting to see who would, put the VAA logo on their videos and stuff, and
yeah. Maybe I'm going to start do that. I'm going to start putting VAA on now that I'm a member, I'm going to start putting it on my videos.
Hey, you go for it, but at your own risk. We made quite a few enemies in our time, so good luck.
You've got to break a few eggs to make a cake, sir. You've got to break a few eggs. Because, the one thing that I've learned over the last year is that activism, YouTube content, in real life activism, it doesn't have to be serious. That's the one thing I've learned from you, from all of the boys in your, OGs and girls. Sorry, ladies. You have fun, and I love that. I love that you laugh, and even about serious issues of more recent times. And I do quote you quite regularly with my litigation. Do you want to talk about that? Do you have an opinion? Is there anything you want to say about it?
Oh, Mr. John Cedars, Lloyd Evans. I do probably have a few things that I could add to the discussion, because I haven't talked about them in a while, and there's new things popping up now. It's fun to browse Twitter. It really is. You find out all kinds of interesting things, but the only reason, well, there's a lot of reasons why talking about his scandals and so forth are relevant, but I get comments to this day on videos that are like a year and a half old, and they'll be like, why are you obsessing over Lloyd Evans? And I'll be like, yo, look at my channel. Like, look at the amount of content that I have on there, and I want you to count how many of them are Lloyd based videos. It's like such a small, tiny fraction of the time that I've brought this man up. But it's like the automatic defense for Lloyd is that you're obsessed. Stop talking about him. Stop talking about him. Some of those folks, it kind of alarms me that there's so many people that want us to keep quiet about him. And honestly, that's probably why I've always been so vocal about the messed up abusive behaviors that he has had, is because there's so many people telling me, because anytime there's like a corrupt public figure and there's like a mass group following that are like, don't say anything about him, I get the jeebies. Like it's like I almost have to say something after somebody tells me to be quiet,
Streisand effect, yeah.
Yeah, well, because it's culty and it's weird. Like, why do you want to keep it quiet? That he had all this criminal, immoral activity. Let's put aside the immoral part of using sex workers and cheating on your wife. Put aside the immorality part of it. We'll just talk about the illegal aspect of it. A lot of people are like, well, he didn't break any laws. Actually, it's illegal in Croatia and it's illegal in Thailand, technically, to hire sex workers. It may be true that they're permissive towards it. It may be true that it goes on day to day like it's no big deal. But if you do a Google search right now, and I encourage everyone to, because I did it just this morning just to make sure I wasn't crazy before I came on here, it'll say it's illegal. It is a crime that he committed in these countries. So like when people are like, shh, don't talk about this illegal activity, I'm just wondering why. Why are you trying to silence people about this? It's creepy to me. I don't like it. And he is a public figure. He has a wide net of influence, and he represents ex-Jehovah's Witness stuff in a pretty big way. And even they will acknowledge how much he's synonymous with XJW stuff, because the first thing they'll say is like, don't you see how damaging you are to XJWs by calling out Lloyd's, dirty laundry? It's making us all look like, sexual deviants or something. It's like, so you're acknowledging that Lloyd has a huge impact and largely represents XJW activism when you say that. And no, I'm not gonna be the guy that tries to sweep stuff under the rug because it makes my team look better. I'm just not that way. I would feel weirder if I came out, or I was starting to wake up and I saw ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and apostates sweeping something this gross under the rug. I would feel way weirder about that and way more put off about that than saying, oh, well, one of their guys is a sexual deviant and a sex addict and cheats on his wife and uses donations for prostitutes, so on, etc. I mean, like,
I made a comment some time ago about how can we expect from the organization what we can't do for ourselves? That if we can't regulate ourselves, how can we demand that from Watchtower? What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's kind of part of the hypocrisy that gets me all fired up, is that this guy for how long has called foul on the organization for doing things that he's secretly been doing. He's been misallocating funds, and he continually begs the community for money. We have more money going out than we have coming in, Stephen Lett
So
style.
it wasn't just me that heard that when I saw that video. You heard that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And tell me, so because a lot of people, again, I'm basing the litmus test on the fact that I didn't know, and I think that there are a lot of people who are like me from my generation who didn't know. There's two reasons why I put the clip about John Cedars in the memoirs. A, because I really, really like the technical ability. I think it's brilliant. But B, there is a really important message and a reason why you did that video. I'm sure at the time you got absolutely hammered for doing it. Do you want to share, what are your thoughts about that period of time? What happened there?
The Russian ban thing. And forgive me, it's been a while. I don't remember all the details super well, but I just know that when the rumors were coming around that Russia was about to ban the practice of Jehovah's Witnesses over there, I, as well as a bunch of other people, were kind of stoked about that prospect, because it was of our opinion that the Jehovah's Witness organization was a destructive cult, that they routinely and as a matter of practice covered up child sex abuse. And keep in mind that this was before they updated their Shepherd the Flock book, their rule book, to kind of like change their wording about how they handle child sex abuse. This was back when it was very matter of fact how it worked. If there's not a second witness, we don't do anything. And quite frankly, every government in every country that let that slide, in my opinion, was derelict of their responsibility to the people. Because, like, I'm not saying you necessarily have to ban them, but to just ignore it completely. To be fair, they got sued, you know, I don't know how many times over it. And they face, you know, financial penalties. But when you have a certain amount in your pocketbook, fines are kind of just a slap on the wrist.
Sure.
You see that with like rich celebrities all the time. They get away with all kinds of stuff. And like, what a fine? What's a fine? It doesn't do anything. But anyways, yeah. So when that whole thing was happening, and Lloyd was like, "This is the worst thing. This is a human rights violation." I was like, "Well, man, are we going to like stand behind the stuff we've been saying for the past, I don't know how long, on our channels and everything that we've been advocating for? Like, is this a destructive cult or isn't it? Like, should there be some kind of real penalty for doing this to little kids, and or should there not be, you know?" And Lloyd was under the opinion that the Russian ban was a step too far, but worse than that, because like to say it's a step too far, that's pretty reasonable. He actually demonized the community that vocalized that they were for the Russian ban. In fact, he had like a chart. He had like
he did a video as well.
Did a
the
video
day after the
and
ban.
had a chart the day after the ban. Oh yeah, the day after the ban.
And the music was
The
shockingly
violins
watchtower.
and he really, he basically started doing PR for the witnesses during that time period. It was interesting. But yeah, he had a chart that was like, if anywhere on the chart you think that the JW should be banned from practicing in Russia, it would point to, you need mental help, go seek therapy, you know? And it's like, man. And I don't think Lloyd ever realized that everyone's entitled to their opinion. But when he said stuff, it created this whole culture of people that would mirror what he said. Like, I mean, rewind the clocks a year and a half, 2 years ago, and go on to Reddit. If you mentioned or stated an opinion that Lloyd had vocally demonized, you would be downvoted and laughed off of the platform like immediately, because he had such a following, such a presence on the internet, that it's like they just sucked down his every word, and they took it at face value, and then it was like the rule book for how you should properly be an ex-Jehovah's Witness. And so if we came along with another idea, they just jump on you. And like, I don't think he ever really understood that he was a leader in that way. He was a public figure. He was shaping an entire community in some respect. I mean, not the entire community, thank goodness, but a really large portion of it. And so, yeah, when you were in this position and you put out thoughts like that, then we get painted as like these monsters, you know? And it wasn't a small number of people who were sympathetic to the idea of banning the Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia. It was a substantial amount of people who, at least at first, were like, finally somebody's doing something.
Yeah.
But then, like, you know, Lloyd kind of snuffed out a lot of that. But
it seems that the thing that upsets me, it seems that Lloyd has snuffed out a lot of things. You know, I've analysed the situation with the Russian ban, and Evie, yes, I have seen the chart before. Someone shared it with me some time ago, and it was really concerning because I thought, so because you've got a difference of opinion, or you know, it's very black and white thinking, that chart. It's like, it's this or it's that. It's this or it's that. And it's either you're right with me or you're mentally unwell. And I just wasn't about it. But when we look in retrospect about what happened with the Russian ban, and if you go back and look at the day after the ban video, it's very similar to the type of rhetoric that Watchtower, that fear and obligation and guilt of behavior. And I think to myself, you know, this is something that I've really been analysing since in the last year. So there's the Russian ban. There was the Candace Conti business on JWN. There was a huge blow up, and you know, Lloyd had written an article, and then people had said, look, that's not right. But there was that element of the community, a large element of the community, even back then, that he said it, so it was right. And I'm like, well, what makes him more right than you or Mark and Cora, Kim and Mike, Evie, Son of Thunder, Joel, all of those people that were having, you know, doing videos, giving their opinion and positions? What made him more right than anybody else, and more entitled to an opinion, which it seemed that he did have more of a right to an opinion? I'm fascinated with how that came to be. What was the mentality? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think a big part of it is exposure. Nobody has put in the work. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. Lloyd combined his exhaustive workaholic, videoaholic, like he combined the putting out content ad nauseum with being quite clever with, you know, thumbnails, video editing, also, as you mentioned, employing Jehovah's Witness mannerisms and their sort of trademarks and their hooks and, you know, their style. And he incorporated just the perfect storm of things that would just rocket him. You know, I don't know how many subscribers he's up to now, but
well,
Jehovah's Witnesses.
There's subscribers, and then there's subscribers.
Yeah, well, true. But yeah, and you know, the fact that he was an elder, he was pretty well situated to take up that role, that sort of missing void in a newly woken up person. You know, they're looking for a leader, they're looking for like the wise man at the temple, you know, and he comes along with his accent and his very, on the surface, very intellectual demeanor. And yeah, it honestly doesn't surprise me that he gained the influence that he did, because he put in the work, but also he had all the right little ticks to be a superstar for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And he utilized all the dirty tricks too, like with the mannerisms and stuff. But I brought that up. I can't remember your question. What was the question?
No, you've answered the bang on the question. So there's been a lot of discussion lately about cult mindset. And I think basically that's what you're describing, where, you know, he's created that the comfortable zone. So people that are coming out of trauma, even though it's traumatic, they feel comfortable in trauma. It's like someone who has mental health issues. It's very easy to go into depression and hide away and lock away and unhealthy behaviors, because even though it's not great, it's comfortable. So I think that if I could go back to that time, I would say to people, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Okay, so JW Fairytale paints his face. Get comfortable with being, because okay, you're not going to see that in a Kingdom Hall, but that doesn't mean he hasn't got something decent to say. And we both know that in a lot of cases, Fairytale had a lot of really good things to say, even though he looked like Kiss. And so, you know, that's getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's
and, you know,
such a good
things
point.
that you guys did, the crazy shit that you guys did. There's still some really, there's a video on your channel. It is the most, I even do better videos than this, which is shocking. You and Joel were just talking shit one night, drinking, and you're filming his Zoom on your camera with your phone, and it's a mess. But if you go back and listen to what you guys are actually saying, it is bang on interesting, and I learned so much out of the you know, just some really serious food for thought out of the conversation. But it's uncomfortable to watch because it's not that cinematographic, you know, perfection. It's pretty much like my channel, like, you know, it's your worst video. You do some brilliant videos, but you guys were just mucking about. But even in your silliness, there was some good content in there as well. So I think, what do you think about that?
No, I appreciate that, and I think you're right. Fresh out of the organization, you hold on to a lot of biases and phobias and things, and my personality kind of allowed me to, I don't know, embrace the weirder side of worldly life more than probably your typical fresh out ex-Jehovah's Witness. And you're right, like there's a lot of people waking up who aren't going to click on the guy with a full beard and ponytail and tattoos. Like, they're just not. They're going to click on the guy who looks like an elder. And it is a shame because you're not really going to grow if you stick to a certain pattern and you never challenge yourself. You're right about that. Like, watching JW Fairy Tales videos changed my life. Like, that guy, when he gets going, I almost referenced the scripture about shaking the foundations of the, you know what I mean? Like, he's something else.
Yeah. And you know, even some of the stuff that, like Tony Prime, JW Prime Time, he challenged me because, you know, and I watched, I mean, I've been out for more than 3 years, shall we say, at any rate, 3.5 years. When I first heard about him and I watched his videos, and even I checked myself before I wrecked myself, because he came out, he's foul mouthed, like chronic. He's got like verbal diarrhea syndrome. I'd love to have Tony on my channel and do a video for him as well. Fuck knows how I'm going to do that, because
just like have a constant bleep. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But you know what? And that's when I realized, that was when I started to realize that bias that I had. That, you know, even though you know, I'd done so much personal growth and blah blah blah, I realized in that moment, because, you know, he's got tats, he was swearing, he's, you know, like some of his language is extra.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's extra.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. Tony, if you're watching still.
Well, luckily, you know, I was talking about how I kind of had my own little inner rule book that deviated a little from the witnesses, and I had a little bit of a double life thing going growing up, a little bit. So I hung out with people a lot like Tony and Joel, just like, you know, swearing and like real shock value, edgy humor, you know. So it was nothing for me. I enjoyed their videos. Like, oh man, I just ate them up. And Tony, man, what a great guy. Now he's jumping out of airplanes and skydiving, and that man has lived on the edge his entire life. Like, he was into BMX, and he's got like a new tattoo every year. And like,
I've noticed he's collected a couple in his last video that he did the other day. I was like, wow, he's growing some tats.
Yeah.
I have no tats. I know you've got a few. Did you get your first one after you left the ball?
Oh, well, I hadn't officially left. I had one. It was my ex-wife's name, for shame. It was my ex-wife's name, but like I had it like right here, and I had a big watch that I, and she had one on her wrist too, and she covered it with like a bracelet, and like we were on our way out at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the rest came after I was completely out. This is all artwork from a band called Coheed and Cambria. They're a prog rock band.
Yeah.
Really futuristic sci-fi, but like sometimes it's really metal, sometimes it's poppy and like whimsical, and they're so talented, man. And I still, to this day, when they put out a new record, it's like my favorite record, like I love them.
So that was something I was going to ask about, because I know you've got a massive love for music. And was that part of your leaving process and your developing to where you are today? It seems that it's always been
always, yeah,
and music. Always.
I was the JW kid who was like sneaking albums home behind my parents' back, like
what were they? Was it John Farnham? No.
Well, who now?
John Farnham? No. If you don't know John Farnham, we're not even friends anymore.
No, I know him.
You're the voice trying to understand it. Make a noise and make it clear.
I'm sorry. Is that like is that a UK artist maybe?
No, John Farnham is Australian as you come, my friend.
Australian. Okay.
John Farnham, legend, living legend. Go look him up.
I'm gonna look him up for sure. And I'm
sorry. That. You're the voice. Everything. Every song. There is not a song that he hasn't written or sung that isn't the best.
I will definitely check it out. And I'm sorry that I haven't heard of him. Maybe it just didn't. Florida.
When you hear the voice,
I'll recognize it.
A lot of people do. A lot of English people, even some Americans do.
Mark and Chorus says they know
Australians. He's very sick, Joelle, I've got to tell you. They're doing a documentary on him on Saturday. I think he's in really big trouble. It's terribly sad. I'm really devastated.
I feel so bad for not knowing this.
How dare you? Just because you're American and you think that nothing exists unless it's American.
Not,
like
promise.
We are the best and everyone else is like nobody gives a rest.
I promise that's not what it is. You make this sweet compilation video from all my videos and I don't even know. Oh, no. I'm sorry.
And no, I'm not holding against you. He's a legend in Australia. He is known a little bit, but even the UK people who they know the music, but they don't know the name. And that's
probably what it is. I'm sure I've heard the songs.
What's your favorite music genre?
I grew up listening to rock. I was mostly a rock guy. I was sneaking home bands like System of a Down, and now it's like all the music of my life has disappeared from my brain because you asked me. But like I started listening to rock, but then like these days I've gotten more into like EDM, like electronic, like dance music and stuff.
Yeah.
Because like I just got to a point where I realized that most of my life I was sort of like in love with being sad. Does that make sense? And so like a lot of my music was really angsty and like angry and sad. And I was like, I bet my attitude would change if I would seek out music that, was of a different cloth, I guess, a change of attitude or, flavor. And it's true. Like, a lot of my personality has changed from kind of shifting away from like the really like angry, sad rock and roll stuff. I still love that stuff. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not hating on it at all. I still listen to that stuff, but I just don't listen to it as much, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Is it changed since the fiance's been around?
It's
Are you listening to like?
I'm pretty
cool songs?
I'm pretty fortunate that I had already kind of like taken this journey into like dance music and electronic stuff and like more pop stuff. Like I'd already kind of started taking to that type of music. So when we got together, it was no transition at all. Like we've got a playlist that's like a combined playlist of stuff that we both like that's of a similar vein, and it's, you know,
Love it.
yeah. There's a band called Cannons. It's got like a woman singer, and it's like it's almost indie rock, but it's more pop and like maybe almost reggae.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah,
that sounds like my jam.
Yeah.
So we are just past the hour mark, so I will.
Oh wow.
I know you've got things to do and places to be and things to go. So if anyone's got any questions that are serious, and I'm not going to bring up any Joel's questions, so don't bother. Sorry, Joel. I do this every live stream. I can't help myself. It's shocking. I'm sorry. I'll litigate myself. Oh, and David Peacock, if I could be. 1927 is one of my favorite bands. We do have, so put questions in the chat. We do have a very serious question we have to discuss right here, right now, Slave. We need to know 1927, sorry, Backstreet Boys are in sync.
Ooh, that's tough. You know, this is probably going to be very explosive, but I think I'm going to go with in sync. But I have reasons. Okay, just hear me out. All right.
What's your case?
Who from both bands, of the two pop groups, which one has members still putting out like hits?
The Backstreet Boys put out a whole album, NDA.
When you say that, though, did any of them become hits? Did any of the songs become hits?
Yes.
Did they? Okay. Well, my whole argument rested on the fact that Justin Timberlake just like exploded, and he's still putting out bangers and is super.
Yes, but see, that's not in sync. That's Justin Timberlake.
But he was in sync, therefore I feel like, and I don't know. I think maybe.
So does that make Boyzone better because they had Ronan Keating?
All right, maybe it's a bad argument. Okay.
So I'll ask again. No,
I'm not really a fan of either, but I do remember owning NSYNC's first album. I didn't even know who they were, so don't judge me too harshly, guys out there. I just remember owning that album, and I thought it was fun, you know. So that's it.
I'll pay that. That's a fair. I'll pay that. Any advice? So say someone, you know, brand new baby, Fateful Slave. Do we need me to play the video again? You've seen. There's millions of you around. What's your advice to him and everybody else that's, you know, less than 5 years out of the book? What's your advice?
Advice to new ones waking up?
Yeah, people getting out, people finding their, like, restarting their lives.
Okay. Okay. So make as many friends as you can in and outside of the Jehovah's Witness community, or ex-Jehovah's Witness community, sorry. But also try to remember that even in the outside world, not ex-Jehovah's Witness community people, just like regular, normal, run-of-the-mill people, really struggle to make and maintain friendships. It's not easy, and you will bicker, you will fight, you will find things that you don't agree on. But that's okay. That's human nature. You know, I've had the tendency to, you know, get bitter and say, oh, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are you know, this or that when I have, you know, really solid friendships amongst them fall apart. And I took it personally. But really, like, when you zoom out, it's like, no, this is actually normal human behavior outside of XJW world. I've made friends that have been really solid and they've fallen apart. It's just kind of something that happens, especially these days when everybody is so divided right now. But at the same time, don't give up, because I have solid friendships in and outside, in the XJW community and outside the XJW community. And and you know what? Like, give people a break, you know? Like, you may think that you have all the answers and you have the right opinions on everything, but you know, is it really worth, like, driving a wedge between you and other people over thinking a little different? It's really not, you know. Like, get over your differences. And like, if it has to be a situation where you don't talk very often, or maybe you like make it so you don't see their posts on Facebook or whatever, that's fine. But you know, we got to stop doing the shunning thing. And I'm guilty of it too. I've had some friends, you know, and we've had a heated argument. We've said terrible things, and I've hit the block button, and I really regret every time I've done that. I really do. You know, except for the ones that are just like super hateful and out to get you and slander you and stuff. But
yeah, I can definitely say from my own perspective, you know, having that tolerance, I don't I don't block people. I think I have blocked less than half a dozen, because it's either certain people or reasons. But I let pretty much anyone comment on my channel, and anyone's welcome in any live chat that I've ever done, so long as they're not attacking other people or being like complete assholes. I don't think I've actually ever blocked anyone yet on my channel. I've felt like doing it, and the urge is just so like, I've had enough of your shit, piss off. I think everyone knows. Anyone that follows my channel knows who I'm talking about too. For the clues.
It's tough sometimes, right? Like,
but it's a good thing for me. It's good therapy for me to learn to go, I can scroll past you. I can, you know, that is your opinion. And it just has desensitized me a little bit. I'm not so reactive. I'm not as, how dare you, you know, like in Australia, we call it getting on your high horse, like get off your high horse. And it's been, so it's doing different things and, you know, being comfortable, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. It's a thing.
I really like that. That's a really good phrase. I'm glad that you are telling people that.
That is the essence of the VAA, in my opinion.
You're so right.
And I think that's why I hear you. I'm going to stuff it because I've heard it too many times. So many of you have said it was the golden
age.
Yeah, it was the summer of love, you know, that period of time. And it's true. And I think that there's always room for improvement. But, you know, take the good and build from it. And I think that the community would be better off from going back and looking and seeing that there is room for fun and that there is room for friendships and camaraderie and you know, taking the ugly out, take money out of the community, take ego out, you know, just enjoy everybody for who they are and encourage each other. I know you did a video shouting out about 5 or 6 people, and it was that community inclusion.
It really was.
I think if we can learn anything from your generation, then that would be something that we would massively learn from. I do want to point out 2 things, if I can. I don't know where he went. Anyway, so anyone recognize that face? I do. It is Tom. Oh, look, there's the messenger. Hello, Tom. I'm sure you've had to come in late because you're probably working or whatever. If you go back to the beginning of this video, you'll see that I have made, with huge amounts of love, because I loved it, I enjoyed every minute of it, I've put a video together for Parker. And it's a showcase of all his work that is my favorite. And if you come on my channel and talk to me, I promise I will make you a video too. Thank you so much, Parker. I really appreciate the fact that you came on and had a chat. I've been looking forward to chatting with you for so long. I appreciate you. You know, I know that you've moved on in life, and I'm so pleased for that. And but to come back and have a chat and to care about the exjw community just shows a testament of who you are as a person. And I have so much respect for your work. I enjoy it. Thank you for what you did and what you continue to do. It is it means more to me than I could ever express to you.
You saying that means more to me than you probably know. I really appreciate that. I wasn't expecting this to be quite as me heavy. Like usually these things are just like a really chill, just a chat. But you've honored me, well, more than I'm used to or comfortable with. but I really do
comfortable being uncomfortable, my friend.
You're right.
I will say it as it is.
You're right.
Everybody knows me. I tell it how it is. I present it how it is. That is your work. I can only encourage people to go and check out, because there'll be something in his repertoire that is your flavor. There's the seriousness, there's the documentary. I think the documentary is brilliantly produced, made, filmed, all of that stuff, the technical things that I don't know anything about. I think it's brilliant, but I think the message is great. There's the flavors of the happy and the sad and the serious and the I think it's fabulous. But there's some funny shit in there too. I do love The Professor. It was great. So thank you so much, Parker. I'm going to pop you back into the back room for a minute. Is there anything final you wish to say? Do you wish to give Joel some love? Tell him you love him.
Give Joel some love. Oh, Joel would just say, "Shut the fuck up, Parker." But yeah, Joel's
all
the
right.
best.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll pop you back into the back room.
Fateful Slave, I'm out.
So, guys, I hope you've enjoyed it. I loved it. Please do check out his channel. He has some great stuff. We don't have to always expect to see one particular way of presenting information. I hope that you guys can, enjoy it, because I love it. I absolutely love all of the OG videos. Not all of them, but, there's something in there for everybody. So I'm leaving it at that. Thank you so much for joining me. I was a bit of late notice. I wasn't sure if Parker and I were going to do this live or if we were going to do it on a video, but I'm super glad we got to do it live so that everyone could join in. Hope you have a great evening for those in the Northern Hemisphere and those just getting up, all the Australian crew. Hi, sorry it's a bit early, but you know how it is. I like to get up early. Have a great day at work, all of you, because you're all heading out. And hopefully I'll catch up with you again soon. Take it easy. Bye.